The Nobel Prize in Literature for 2016 is awarded to Bob Dylan for having created new poetic expressions within the great American song tradition. He is a great poet. He is a great poet in the English-speaking tradition, and he is a wonderful sampler, a very original sampler. He embodies the tradition, and for 54 years now, he's been at it and reinventing himself, constantly reinventing himself, creating a new identity.
That announcement Thursday morning in Stockholm, Sweden has turned the literary world on its ear, marking the first time a singer-songwriter has won a Nobel Prize. And it has certainly turned the world's attention on Duluth, where Bobby Zimmerman was born, and Hibbing, where he grew up and attended high school. It highlights an exciting week for John Bushy, whose local Dylan radio show Highway 61 Revisited will be celebrating its 25th anniversary this weekend. And Zane Bale is a Duluth Dylan Fest committee member and an organizer of this weekend's celebration. And thanks to both of you for being here tonight.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, John, what was your reaction when you first heard about the Nobel Prize for Bob Dylan?
Well, he's won so many awards over the year. You know, people make a big deal about this, the Nobel Prize in literature, but you know, look at him. He's been nominated for 40 Grammy Awards. He's won 10. He's got Academy Awards, Golden Globes, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. It's just on and on and on. He's been honored with so many things. We're obviously very thrilled with every award he gets, and it's just this is kind of one of the big ones. So we're obviously extremely thrilled that he finally got this one. There's been talk for several years that he was in the running, and it's great to see that he finally did get it.
Yeah.
He's being called a poet, obviously a poet extraordinaire. It's not usual to call a songwriter a poet, is it? I mean, there's poetry perhaps to all music, but...
Yeah, you know, I like to liken it to a quote that he made in 1965 when they asked him if he thought he was a poet. And his response was, I don't know, I come in on such a back door that I don't know what a Keats or a Longfellow would think of my stuff. And I think it'd probably be a very similar answer to something like this award. I came in on such a back door that I don't know what, another great, someone in literature would think of his stuff. Mm-hmm. He seems to be very modest about these awards and not overdwell on them. He didn't mention it at all in concert last night.
Mm-hmm. Zane, what do you think? As you read or listen to Bob Dylan lyrics, do you think that they stand on their own as poetry without the harmonica, without the guitar, without that distinctive voice?
I do, and I've heard several local poets read Bob Dylan's words as poetry at poet events during our Duluth Dylan Festival, and it's profound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why do you think that Dylan really spoke, first of all, to that generation of the 60s when he first emerged on the scene?
I don't really have an answer for that. I can tell you that what many people that are far more knowledgeable than I have said is that somehow Bob Dylan had his finger on the pulse of the nation. He was just through whatever gift or whatever he had with words, that he was able to express in words what many people were feeling. Mm-hmm. And indeed, I do believe he did that. That's the way they actually introduced him the year in 1965 at the Newport Folk Festival. He has his pulse on the finger of the nation, and indeed he did. He seemed to foretell things that were coming, and even he can't explain how or where or why those songs came from.
So John, is Bob Dylan a flashback to people of my age, or does he resonate with young people today?
That's a great question, and the truth is you go to a Bob Dylan concert today and you're going to see young people, older people, people of our generation, younger. There's a certain generation. Dylan is one of those. Joan Baez said it best. She said, Bob Dylan can hit anybody at any time, and if he touches you, if his words touch you, they can touch you very deep. Mm-hmm. And I love that quote of hers.
I do too.
That's a good one.
Now, I've heard both of you referred to as Dylanologists. I don't know
I
if
was
that's
misquoted then because I am no Dylanologist. I thank goodness for John and lots of other great Dylanologists we have in our local community.
But John spoke to Dylan speaking to people. What speaks to you about Dylan? What kind of first got you intrigued and really brought you on board this train?
Well, I came to Dylan through Peter, Paul, and Mary and the Kingston Trio and the Chad Mitchell Trio. That was music my dad listened to. And then I found out Bob Dylan wrote all these songs, and I found out Bob Dylan was born in Duluth and raised in Hibbing in 6th grade. My 6th grade teacher at Irving School in Duluth was from Hibbing, and we talked about that. But really, the Dylan committee has been just a great joy that I've had the opportunity to be involved in and gotten to know John over the years, and I've been working on this for about 12 years.
Mm-hmm. What about you, John? What kind of first got you intrigued by Bob Dylan?
Spring break trip in college to Big Bend National Park, Texas. I discovered the Beatles, and I discovered somebody put on the greatest hits of this guy named Bob Dylan. And I don't know what it was, but they said he was from Duluth, and that intrigued me. And I was already, as a young boy, collecting Houdini things, because I'm a magician. But somehow I started going down and buying Bob Dylan records. And, finally I went up to the counter and said, how many records does this guy have? I was just spending all my money, and then I started discovering all the books and reading about him. And it's just fascinating how much stuff has been written about him and analyzing. There's whole books written on one song, just analyzing it. So he's truly been a subject, I think, that has led the way through many of the tumultuous times of the 1960s or 70s, even 80s, 90s, that his words have somehow guided people with far more popular influence on popular culture, like the Beatles. But it was Dylan that kind of led their way through.
And if I can just bring this up, there's when you start looking at history, the history of music in our culture, few musicians, few singers have truly changed music.
Yeah.
And I've listed a few. Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
He was a superstar in his day. Elvis Presley, Michael Jackson, the Beatles, Bob Dylan. There aren't many on that list.
No, there really aren't.
Is there somebody today who should be on that list? I can't think of a soul who's really changed music.
I'm going to bring up one that is no longer with us, but another Minnesota icon.
Prince?
Prince. Mm-hmm. Prince, in his own way, had great influence and great change on his generation of music. And I think that is partly why this Nobel Prize is so important, because Bob is still here. It's not like a posthumous award. Bob Dylan's still here, but they were both Minnesota music icons.
There have been many wonderful musicians and icons over the generations, but so few have changed the face of a generation, or more than a generation.
Yeah, multi-generational. Yeah. And to have a show for 25 years like John has had.
Exactly.
And just to have that kind of catalog of music, what do you say, John, over 600 songs? And John plays all kinds of versions of those songs on his show.
Mm-hmm. And you're celebrating the anniversary this weekend. Talk about that. And
I never thought that my show would last 2 months or 3 months. But the current station director at KUMD way back in 1991 was John Ziegler. Mm-hmm. He knew I had this large collection. We started the show, and I play not only Bob Dylan music, but the music of those that Bob Dylan influenced or was influenced by, cover versions, Dylan songs performed by other artists. I play a lot of live material, which you don't get to hear anywhere else on any radio station, music from concerts and rare outtakes. And I am just consider myself very blessed to have been, for whatever reason, maybe because of just in Duluth, have been allowed to do this, to share my passion with other people. And when I started streaming around the world is when I first realized that wow, people are actually listening, and I'm getting all these emails and
From overseas, even.
yeah.
I literally know people who plan their Saturday afternoon around your show. So, there are people who just really, really love what you're doing. And are you going to incorporate the Nobel Prize at all into this weekend's activity?
We are on Saturday, and we're so excited about it. We have a big cake, and we're going to hopefully have a proclamation, at least for John's show, and maybe it'll be for more. We don't know. But it's going to be a part of the celebration. And poetry has been a big part of Dylan Fest, and it'll even play hopefully a larger role in 2017. We're getting our plans underway.
Great.
So.
All right. Well, congratulations to Bob Dylan, and congratulations to you, John.
Saturday
for
at the
25
Rex
years.
is going to
Well,
be the
thank you.
place to be, so I
There
hope
you
you
go.
two can come.
All right.
Thank you so much. All the best.
Good to see you.